Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We join you this week from Harper County in the middle of the widespread damage caused by a massive wildfire earlier in the month. A little later in the show, we'll talk with those affected and hear about the incredible outpouring of support from across Oklahoma and around the country. But first, a progress report on the wheat crop. Here's SUNUP's Dave Deacon and our Extension Small Grain Specialist, David Marburger.
As we move through March, the wheat crop's moving along too. And David, where are we with the Oklahoma wheat crop?
Well, right now I'd say the Oklahoma wheat crop, it's hanging in there right now. We could definitely use a rain in a lot of places. In terms of the growth staging, we're seeing anywhere, it's actually quite a bit of a wide range, anywhere from the northern parts of the state where we may be getting just into Feek 6 or the jointing growth stage, to areas in the southern part of the state where we're actually seeing some heading on some of our varieties.
Now, down in the southern part of the state, there's also been some talk of some disease pressure too.
Yeah, actually just the other day we had a report of some stripe rust in that area, and it's likely going to be a little bit more widespread than maybe what we think. So just getting out there and scouting and seeing if we have that particular disease. It's not really widespread at the moment that we know of, but again, just getting out and seeing if you have that disease or not.
Now, you did mention things are starting to dry up a little bit. Are there parts of the state that are more susceptible to the dry and the growth right now?
Well, yeah, actually overall across the whole state here, where we're at, where we're beginning stem elongation and we're actually moving into heading, during that time we're actually using quite a bit of water. The amount of water we're using increases rapidly. The rains that we got in January and into February have kind of helped keep us moving along. Now we're really using a lot of water, and if we were to go out and dig under a lot of those plants, there's not a lot of water, if any, underneath there, so we could definitely use a rain here very soon. Otherwise, we're going to start moving backwards. A lot of the wheat, when you drive around, it still has a pretty good color in a lot of areas, but if we don't catch some rains here soon, we're slowly going to start working back. As we're moving in from stem elongation up into heading, the susceptibility of the crop to freeze, our risk, it definitely goes up. So it just depends on when that freeze event occurs, where the growth stage of the plants are, and then how cold does it actually get and for how long, and then from there we'll be able to better determine what was the impact of the freeze injury.
We're actually here at the demonstration plots on the agronomy farm where you have all of the varieties that are planted in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And this last year, a lot of producers were planting OSU varieties.
Yeah, actually the wheat variety report from USDA NASS just came out here really very recently, in the top 5 varieties that were planted throughout Oklahoma were OSU varieties, and Gallagher being the one on about 20% of our seeded acres. And I think that's a big testament to Dr. Carver and his crew, as well as the wheat improvement team, on developing very good varieties. And but a lot of those varieties on the list, there are a lot of other good varieties from public and our private institutions across the state. And it's about finding a variety that's going to fit, that works well on their farm, fits within their management style throughout the state. And again, there's a number of varieties out there that can help them do that.
Well, thank you very much, David. And for more information on that, go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
We just keep rolling up above average daytime highs. Monday was another warm one. The hot spot in our state, 98 degrees at Butler. Second in line was Eric at 96 degrees. 69 of Mesonet's 121 sites had an afternoon high in the 90s. It's not just the daytime highs that are above normal, but the nighttime lows too. Monday morning, there were some lows typical for March, 40-degree temperatures in the Panhandle, but most of the state had morning lows in the 60s. Wilburton had the warmest minimum air temperature Monday morning, 68 degrees. 76 Mesonet sites had a morning low in the 60s. While the above-average temperatures are pushing early blooming and leaf flushes, our latest cold weather was just last week on March 14th and 15th. On March 15th, morning lows below freezing reached as far south as Altus, Ardmore, Ada, and Clayton. So here we are in the latter part of March, holding our breath that there won't be another wave of cold weather with freezing temperatures. Tuesday, soil moisture was showing some dramatic drops in large pockets across the state. They were the yellowish and light green areas on a map of the percent of plant available water from the surface down to 16 inches. Here's Gary with a look at our tenuous moisture situation.
Thanks, Al, and good morning, everyone. Well, I hope you received rain wherever you're at, because we definitely need it. Let's take a look at the latest drought monitor map. It's been a while, and see exactly where we're at. We've had a quick development of significant drought across Oklahoma. We now have the extreme drought across the western panhandle, as well as severe drought across northwestern Oklahoma and much of eastern and central Oklahoma, and moderate drought covering most of the rest of the state, with a bit of clear area down in southwestern Oklahoma, and in other areas are abnormally dry, and in this case they're heading into drought unless we get significant rainfall. Now, one of the biggest problems we've had since early fall is the above normal temperatures. This is from the Climate Prediction Center. We do see greatly increased odds of above normal temperatures for that 3-month period. This would not be a good sign for the state and its drought unless we get above normal rainfall. And there's no indication of above, below, or even near normal rainfall for that same time frame. They see chances of drought removal or improvement across the central and the eastern parts of the state to be likely, but they also see the drought to remain or persist and also possibly intensify across northwest Oklahoma and up into the Oklahoma Panhandle. And then we see also development across the Texas Panhandle, and that would of course feed into drought intensification across adjacent parts of our area. So as I said, if we do get above normal temperatures through the rest of the spring, we're going to need a lot of rainfall to make up for not only our previous deficits, but also the increased demand from evaporation and from the plants through the spring. So let's hope we get some good rainfall and maybe some cooler weather down the road. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Daryl Peel, our livestock marketing specialist, is here now. And Daryl, let's dive right in with this runaway cattle market.
You know, it's been seasonal strength. We looked for that. We thought that would happen, but it's really been more than that, I think, in many cases. And so it's been pretty across the board. Fed cattle prices have gone up. Boxed beef price has gone up dramatically. And actually, we think it's really being driven by retail demand. There's a time lag on data, but the February retail prices were actually up from January's level. So even though longer term we know there's going to be pressure, we really think this is a demand-driven thing. It's seasonal, and it's probably going to see a seasonal peak here pretty quick. But at the same time, it's really got some underlying demand that's very good going forward.
In terms of production, we're winding down the first quarter of the year. How are things looking?
Well, you know, production is still up year over year, and our prices on a year over year basis are below last year. We expected that. They're just stronger than we expected in terms of this seasonal increase. So, you know, it's really kind of a normal year in some sense, in that we're seeing the normal seasonal pressure. We've thought that 2017 was going to be more of a kind of sideways year compared to the adjustments we made last year, and it really looks like we're on track to see that at this point.
Does that change anything as we kind of move forward through the rest of the year?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it gives us, more confidence that even with the increases in production we're going to see, if the demand is there, and that's what we think we're seeing right now, then we don't have to see a lot more overall price pressure. We'll see some seasonal price changes as we go through the year, but really nothing necessarily beyond that at this point in time.
We were out in Harper County earlier this week and saw some of the devastation from the wildfire that burned through there and then on into Kansas. What kind of questions are you getting about how that could impact the markets and the people?
Well, you know, we do get a lot of questions about whether this will have overall or generalized market impacts. And the fact of the matter is as devastating as this is, as horrible as it is for the operations and the families involved, this is not going to really affect markets in an overall sense in terms of cattle markets. We're talking about a few thousand head of cattle. At a local level, that's a lot. It's a devastating thing to see, but in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not going to cause any overall market impacts. And so, you know, we have to separate those two effects, I think, a little bit. The focus here really is on those individual operations, helping them get through this and begin the process of recovering financially, but really we won't see any overall market impacts.
Okay, Daryl Peel, thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
Recently, I was reading some information that was written by Dr. Keith Bailey from the Oklahoma Animal Disease and Diagnostic Laboratory. And this information related to chickens. In 2015 and 2016, the most common diagnosed disease in chickens submitted for necropsy was Marek's disease. Marek's disease is caused by a herpes virus, and chickens become infected with this virus by inhaling it from dandruff or dust and where other chickens have been that are infected with it. Now, this virus can survive for long times in chicken pens in that dust that's around where those chickens are. Now, typically, we see this clinical signs of the disease in several different forms. One form is when the virus infects nerves, we're going to have a deficit. So we'll see paralysis, usually of one leg or one wing. The virus can infect the eye. When you see it in the eye, you'll usually see a change in color of the iris. It usually turns gray. The pupil doesn't function properly, and a lot of times these chickens will be blind. It can also infect the internal organs, and where we'll have tumors that grow in those organs. The other form is a skin form in which the feather follicles enlarge. They may turn red, they may turn brownish and crusty in color. Now, there is no treatment for Marek's disease. All we can do is try to prevent the disease. And we can prevent the disease by, one, practicing good biosecurity, being careful what animals we let into our flock, making sure that when we enter the flock that we're clean, we're not bringing in the virus from a source outside the flock. The other thing that we can do is there are certain breeds that are more resistant to the virus. We can try to select for those breeds. And lastly, there is a vaccine which can be given to the chicks while they're still in the egg, or usually we can give it to them at 1 day of age. Hey, if you plan on purchasing some chicks this spring, be sure and have the hatchery vaccinate those chicks before they show up to your place. Or if you're going to buy them at a local feed store or some other outlet, make sure and consult with them and make sure those chicks have been vaccinated for Marek's disease. Vaccinating them now may save you some heartaches in 3 to 6 months. Hey, if you'd like some more information about Marek's disease, if you'll go to sunup.okstate.edu, we'll put some information on the website about this disease.
Now to the story of the wildfires in northwest Oklahoma, where incredible devastation has been met with equally incredible generosity.
It's hard to put in words the side of it. It's overwhelming, the generosity of the people.
In their 20 years of marriage, raising children, and cattle ranching southwest of Buffalo, Oklahoma, Rusty and Jennifer Colton have never dealt with anything like this. The stark and startling aftermath of a wildfire that tore across 330,000 acres of Harper, Beaver, and Woodward counties and covered even more ground north into Kansas. Lives lost, along with homes, barns, equipment, and thousands of head of livestock.
The ash was so thick that the windmill ponds were muddy with ash. There was basically no water in them ponds. It was you could pick it up and hold it in your hand.
And where those ashes have now blown away, bare sandy soil is all that remains.
We're kind of on the north edge of the big fire.
Oklahoma State University Extension educator Daryl McBee is the person people called first for guidance.
When one of your clients is also a good friend of you calls basically in tears on the phone, and he's lost all his hay Of his probably 3,000 acres of grass, he has 160 acres left. And you ask him how he's doing, he's like, oh, I'm okay. He is not okay.
Hard to talk about, even harder to lean on others.
And the Panhandle is probably a harsher climate than most people understand, because our wildfire season started in November. This just happened to be huge, but I've had producers got burned out in November. I have families that went 18 days in January with no electricity from the major ice storm. And then we turn around a month or two later and we burn off 150,000 acres of our county and approximately 3,000 head of cattle. Honestly, it's hard. I don't know how much more they can take. I'm serious.
You don't understand what has happened here.
Woodward County's Dana Bay is helping out in Harper County, where the Extension Office quickly turned into ground zero. Hundreds of calls a day from people offering to help.
Harper County OSHA Extension, this is Dana. How may I help you? Good morning, Nancy. I'm good. How are you? The response has been overwhelming. The state of Oklahoma has stepped up, but the nation has stepped up. The farming community, ranching community have been just, it's overwhelming. Sorry. Okay. It truly is. It restores your faith in humanity.
Generosity stacked high. Hay trucked in from all over the country. For example, people like Molly Green at Tyree Ag in Laverne worked around the clock.
There's no hay around there.
The need for hay, feed, milk replacer, and fencing supplies won't let up anytime soon.
When you consider someone's cow herd that they may have spent years or even generations building up the bloodlines that they wanted to have, and then a fire comes through and wipes out the majority of it, they will come back, they will build back, and they will build those herds again, but it's in some instances starting over from nothing.
Tiny flecks of new grass among the ashes are a sign of hope. Like the land, the people are resilient.
These last couple weeks, both of our girls have seen us down on the mat, and they see you when you get back up. If you have time to dust off, you do, and if you don't, you bristle up and go back in. So neighbors everything will go forward. Everybody will pitch in and we'll all get along. And
everybody's willing to do what they can do, and that's enough. And God will take it from there. We have faith that God will take it from here.
Instead of focusing on what's lost, the Coltons intend to take it day by day, putting energy into helping neighbors, seeing to livestock and orphaned calves, and working on 4-H activities, carrying on the home place that Jennifer's great-grandparents established in 1904.
It's ours. We have bought and paid for it. Blood, sweat, and tears. We've earned every inch of this soil, and we'll continue to do so for our children.
This is the time of the year for spring calving operations that I think presents one of the largest challenges in terms of nutrition for these spring calving cows. The cows are just calving or have calved, and we want them to go into the breeding season that might be about 6 weeks to 2 months away in as good a body condition as they are at calving time. That's very difficult to do because the pastures that we're on, for the most part, the warm season grasses, whether they be Bermuda grass or native grasses, those things are still dormant. They haven't grown enough yet to supply the protein and energy that these cows need as early lactation cows in order to maintain their body condition. Why is this so important? Well, let's look at some data that comes from Oklahoma State University a number of years ago, where we looked at cows that were in a body condition score of about a midpoint 5 in our 1 through 9 scale at calving time. Half of the cows were allowed to stay in that body condition score. In other words, they were given enough in terms of protein and energy, as well as the hay that they were getting, to maintain that body condition into and through the breeding season. The other half of the cows were allowed to lose a body condition score down to about a midpoint 4 between calving and the start of the breeding season. And as you see on this particular graphic, the resulting rebreeding performance is substantially different. There's about a 21% difference in terms of those cows that could maintain that body condition going into the breeding season, performing at a much better level. So, as we think about where our cows are at calving time, let's look at this cow on the screen. This is that cow that's in that midpoint 5 here at calving time. We want to do what we can to maintain that and not let her slip into this thinner body condition, as you see in this body condition score 4 example that we've got on the screen right now. We need to continue our supplementation program, whether it's something like range cubes or high quality hay, so that those cows are getting the protein and energy in addition to the standing forage that's already out there. We want to maintain that body condition in the best way that we can between now and the start of the breeding season. I know that feed's expensive, but losing 21% of next year's calf crop will be even more expensive. Keep this in mind as we go through this next 6 weeks to 2 months. I think it'll help us in terms of our bottom line in the long run on our spring calving beef herd. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
So it's been 2 weeks since we've had a conversation with Kim, and Kim, in that 2 weeks, a 45-cent drop in wheat prices. What's going on?
Well, I think the market's watching the crop that's out in the field. It's looking relatively good. It is dry in areas, and you look at the foreign crops around the world, they're also coming along in relatively good condition. And I think the market's just expecting not a big crop, but I think they're expecting a good quality crop coming on, and that not much decline in supply.
So all of that said, where are we with the price of wheat right now?
Well, if you look at cash wheat prices in Oklahoma, somewhere between $3.20 and $3.50, mostly $3.33, $3.35. Forward contracts offers for harvest delivery now is right almost with current prices at $3.20 to $3.50, mostly around $3.30, $3.35. You look at the Kansas City May contract, it's down to $4.32. It broke that $4.35. I think that's an important area to watch. We could go down another 10, 12, 15 cents. Kansas City July is at $4.45, and again we got probably another 10 or 12 cents for that to go down to hit strong support.
So why is the price of wheat so low right now?
Well, it's because of competition. If you look back, say over the last 10 years, go back to 2007 to now, you've seen Oklahoma wheat yields per acre decline on the average, 5-year average 2 bushels. That same time, you've seen the Russian average yield go up 8 or 9 bushels an acre. You've seen Ukraine go up about 15 to 20 bushels an acre. You look at Argentina, increased competition there because they dropped that 25% tax, export tax on it, makes that less expensive, and you got a higher value of the dollar, which makes ours 25% more expensive. So there's just a lot of wheat around the world, and with that high dollar and the low taxes, the competition's got an advantage for us right now.
So with all of that said, what should Oklahoma producers be doing?
I think they're going to have to, produce the best quality crop they can. I think they've got to use different technologies and managerial practices to keep their costs down.
Okay, Kim Anderson, grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
We're at the Food and Ag Products Center with Tim Bowser, a food engineer. And Tim, it looks like Santa has been here today. We're talking about some of the hottest kitchen gadgets right now. And let's start off with some of the ones that are your favorites, kind of why you like them and how they work.
Okay. This one right here in particular is one of my favorites. This is a special platter. It's made by Tovolo, and it's designed to help you barbecue safely. And it's kind of really important with the food safety, that you don't cross-contaminate. Put things that are raw in the same place you put things that are being cooked, and this platter allows you to manage that real well. So you can put your raw product here on this platter, take it out to your barbecue, put it on the barbecue, and then after it's cooked, you just flip this over, and you have a another surface that's clean and it's perfect for your cooked product, so there's no cross-contamination.
And you talked about thermometers. They're always a good idea,
Yes,
also
ma'am.
in terms of food safety. Talk about the two that you have here and why you like them.
Okay, I really like these two thermometers. This one's designed for, for testing food products. It has a very thin tip, which is extremely fast response. And so this other temperature sensor is for in the oven, and this thing's designed to help you understand how your oven's doing. So a lot of ovens, they only have one display, and you really can't check that very well unless you have something like this. So this is designed so you have 2 points of information, and you can hopefully get your temperature, get your oven calibrated, and keep it up to speed by using a second point of calibration.
Give us your perspective on some newer gadgets that maybe not so great.
Okay, here's an example of one that may or may not be that great. This is a scoop for batter. It's used a lot, they showed in the picture here, for use in muffins. And it's adjustable. You can adjust the volume of the scoop for the amount of product you want to put in the muffin. It's pretty handy like that. And it might work really well. The issue with this product is it's going to be difficult to clean. Whether you put it in your dishwasher or not, this piece does not come apart. So cleaning back in this area and back behind here, and where you really can't see underneath inside here, it's going to be very, very difficult. And eventually this thing is going to get dirty and have a lot of microbes, and it could cross-contaminate your products.
And our engineers obviously designing things more and more with food safety in mind.
So engineers have to. That's the law these days. That's our Food Safety Modernization Act. It's all about food safety, and yes, it's required. Now, a lot of times there hasn't been engineers working on these particular products. Maybe there are a lot of designers,
right.
But when they do get there, they're actually definitely looking for food safety, yes.
Okay, terrific. Well, thanks for giving us a rundown. It was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That'll do it for us this week. If you have a way to help out those affected by the wildfires, the best place to start is the Harper or Beaver County Extension offices, or of course the Extension office near you. I'm Lyndall Stout, and we'll see you next time at SUNUP.